Good morning, everybody. It is the morning time, which is very different from when I usually film my podcasts, which I usually do them at nighttime for a few reasons. One, because Leo, my cat, is super hyper in the mornings and he runs around, makes all types of funny noises, and I was like, you know what, we're just gonna start filming them at night to let him have his moment. But if I'm being really honest with you guys, have been so busy. But not only that, I am just in that phase of my cycle right now, the luteal phase, where I am not feeling like top of the world, my best right now. I just was like having like bloating and cramps last night, and I was like, I do not want to film right now, so I'm just gonna make my favorite cup of coffee in the morning and sit down with you all now. So yeah, I feel much better, and I'm excited that I did that because I had one of the best sleeps ever. I don't know, I'm usually not a morning person, to be honest. I usually need like a solid 2 hours to myself before I talk, but I woke up and I was super energetic, and I was like, perfect day for this because I need to film and record this podcast episode because I have had a lot on my mind the past few weeks, and I've been like listening to other podcasts and just really wanted to talk with you all about some of the things that I don't really love about being a business owner and like the hard truths about it. So that's what this episode's going to be about, because I feel like, just as you guys know, on social media, online, it's all a highlight reel. We're seeing all the positives, we're seeing do this, do that, but no one really talks about how hard it is, and the hard work that it requires. And I really wanted to make this episode to, just remind that it's not for everybody. It's hard, but I feel like if you have that drive in you, then you're going to love it, and it's going to be a really exciting time. But I have 6 different points I want to get through today about some of the hard truths that I've had to learn. This is my 3rd year in business now, and there was things that I didn't really know what to expect, and now I feel like I have a good idea of like what I would advise someone that is going down this path. And that's kind of what I want this episode to be like. Like, I'm just giving you, I feel like I've heard people say this, like older sister advice on what it's like to actually be a business owner. So let's get into it. Number 1, it is really hard. This is something that I've been struggling with lately, but it's hard to accept the fact that it's a lonely road. It can be really lonely, and I know everybody's different, so everyone might have a different experience with this, but I feel like it can be lonely because I have a lot of friend groups in different parts of my life, and none of them are doing what I'm doing. None of them really have their own business, which is fine. Like, they're all in their careers doing their thing. But I feel like having your own business and kind of being in your own bubble, in your own world, in terms of like building your business and like knowing your vision and like your dreams and stuff, it can be really hard to talk to people about that who aren't in the same position or the same world. So I think it's so important to make sure that you're connecting with people, even online or in person, that have maybe a similar interest or that is a business owner, entrepreneur, so you can really like relate to them, because it's a different kind of road. I feel like I heard this recently and it stuck with me so much. When you take your business full time and when you become a business owner, you are having a full lifestyle change as well. Like, it's not just like a simple decision and you're in another job. It's like a full lifestyle change. Relationships might change. Your whole life and the way you do things and the way you structure your day and the way you use your money and everything is different. So it's not just like some easy like decision. It's a big lifestyle change, and those who are around you should respect that. And if they don't, it's really tricky, and it can be really lonely if you have to let go of those people who maybe aren't respecting the lifestyle that you are now in. So I really wanted to talk about that because I feel like, I told you guys, Leo's a morning person, but I just feel like I always want to talk about my business because it's a big part of my day. It's a big part of my world right now. And it's something that I'm really working on day in, day out, weekends, all the time. And I feel like those who aren't entrepreneurs or those who aren't really like there's a lot of people in this world who work their 9 to 5 job and they get home and they just like don't want to think about work. They shut their brain off and they just want to have fun. But I feel like as a entrepreneur and like having the visions I have for like where my business will be, my brain never stops thinking about it. So I also don't want to be that annoying person that is always trying to talk about it and bring it up, but it can be like lonely in your head knowing that's like really what your goals are, where your mind's at, what your priorities are. And it can be hard to talk to people who do not relate to that and who just won't understand it. And that's okay. Like, I feel like I've had to come to the realization, and I'm still trying to accept it to this day, that there's just some people that you can't really talk to about it because you're probably not going to get the response that you really want to hear, or even the support that you really want to hear, because sometimes people just don't get it. And we all only know what we know. And I can't blame people for not understanding like the hard work that it requires and the sacrifices it requires and stuff. So this is a big one. This is why I put this one as number 1, because it is lonely. There are times and weeks where I feel so isolated. I've accepted that. I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm like, I love my business so much. I love what I'm doing so much that I cannot sit here and worry about like not having a bunch of people around me to share that with. But I will say that like having my boyfriend, when he comes home from work, he always gives me like open ears to hear what it is that I want to share about my business. And as long as you have like a few people in your life that you can really talk to about that, and like I said, that like connections online and people that really are willing to hear, and if you want to like bounce ideas off of, there's always people that are open to that. But sometimes in your own real world, it can be really hard to find that. So just stick with it and know it gets better and it's okay. I think it's actually a really beautiful thing to have friends outside of your business and outside of your industry, even outside of social media, because it just brings you back to like planet Earth. I feel like I'm always like in this digital world bubble, but having those people that are like in the real world and the medical fields and all that, it's like brings me back down to earth. And like just having those connections in different areas, I think is really important. So I wanted to mention that, but just know it can be lonely, and surround yourself with the people who are willing to support you, who maybe don't understand it, but who are there for you. Another thing that I've been thinking about, and this is kind of into my next point, but you are your own cheerleader when you are a business owner. You are your own like hype woman, and you have to have that confidence. You have to know that there might not be people that are like pumping you up for a while. There might be a few years where you have to be pumping yourself up. Like if you're confident with your abilities and your skills and you know what you can provide and the value that what you provide, then you should be able to show up knowing that you are a badass. And I feel like it's kind of hard to do sometimes, because in like a corporate world and jobs and stuff, there's always like, I know this doesn't work for everybody's career, but there are times where your boss will come to you and be like, good job, like you deserve a raise, you've been doing amazing, we've all noticed your growth, blah blah. But you don't get that when you're your own boss. And that was one thing I didn't really expect to kind of like miss a little bit, but I feel like I am at a point now where I'm like cheering myself on, and I have to remind myself of my achievements, and I have to celebrate those small wins, because if you don't celebrate anything at all that you achieve, it's going to become really mundane. You're going to feel like, what am I doing this for? So any little small win you have, whether that's like reaching a milestone on social media or landing an awesome high-paying client or a dream client, celebrate those small wins, because you're your own cheerleader. You have to treat yourself to that. You have to remind yourself the hard work you've put in, because that is truly what's going to keep you going. And I feel like I'm not the best at this, but I feel like anytime that I land a client that I've been like really wanting or anything like that, I will literally get up from my desk and go get my favorite coffee, or I'll go get my nails done, or I'll go get a massage. And I just remind myself like, I freaking did that. And I feel like those little things are so important to do, because like I said, if you don't, it can get really mundane, really boring, and you're just going to feel like where is all this success going? What is the point of it? I also wanted to talk to you guys about money. Money is like one of the biggest reasons I think people don't pursue their own business or don't become an entrepreneur, they kind of just like bury those ideas they've had, is most likely because of money. And I know that everybody is in a different phase of their life. Some people have families, some people have lots of commitments and responsibilities, and everyone is in a different phase. So it's hard for me to talk about this in terms of everybody's lifestyle, but I do feel that becoming an entrepreneur or becoming a business owner, I keep switching between entrepreneur and business owner. They're really the same thing. But when becoming a business owner, you have to have a good relationship with money, because I feel like when you are a business owner, money is not going to be this like constant thing that's going to be flowing in. There's going to be months where maybe there's going to be like a few weeks maybe where you're not getting paid. But then at the end of the month, you might get your biggest paycheck. So you have to have that relationship with money where you don't feel like you have a scarcity of it all the time, because I feel like it worked really well for me because I went into business knowing that money will come and money will go. And I don't have this like attachment to it, like kind of in a bad way sometimes. Like sometimes I can spend money, but I feel like I've never had that like attachment to money where I'm like afraid of it. I feel like I just have accepted that it's just a part of our lives and it allows us to have more opportunities. And I just feel like you have to have a relationship with money. I want to do a whole episode on like money mindset and everything, but you have to have a healthy relationship with money, knowing that it's going to be tough some weeks, it's going to be hard some months, but it will come. And as long as you have savings and stuff that you can fall back on during those times, then you shouldn't have that fear, that constant anxiety and that constant fear that you're not going to have enough of it. So I feel like when you live your life in scarcity of money, it's just like a dangerous road to go down, because you're going to be saying yes to so many things that you probably don't even want to say yes to, but you're just saying yes to it to fulfill and like see those numbers coming in. So if you're planning on becoming a business owner and you want to do this, you want to work for yourself, biggest thing I would recommend is to have enough savings where you could live off of those. If you had no clients for like 4 to 5 months, do you have enough money in your savings to support yourself? That's my number one tip. And then also just knowing that you have like a security fund, kind of similar to what I just said, but like having, even if you have to work 2 jobs, like guys, I worked 2 jobs for a long time before I made the decision to finally work for myself. Like it wasn't a quick decision, like right out of college. I worked multiple jobs for years. I think like 4 or 5 years I did that. But I'm so glad I did that, because while I was working those jobs, I was building my clientele, I was building my portfolio, and I didn't feel that fear of making money when I was working with those clients. So I just feel like I said, when you live in that scarcity mindset with money, I just don't think anything good will really come out of that, because you have to be able to follow like what your heart really wants. It's not going to be sustainable. When I say nothing good will come out of it, what I mean is it won't be sustainable. You won't feel super like fulfilled saying yes to clients you don't love. You're going to feel so burnt out, and it's just not going to end well. Like I've been in so many burnout phases, and it's really tough. So definitely make sure that you have enough savings, that you know where your money's going to be coming in during those slow seasons, and it'll work out really well if you have all of that figured out. Another thing I want to chat about is the fact that as a business owner, you will be wearing so many hats. And I kind of knew this going into it, but I didn't know to the extent of that, because as a business owner, I'm not only wearing the creative hat, because I'm a graphic designer, so I wear the website designer hat, the branding hat. I also wear the CEO hat, the CFO hat. I have to wear the hats when it comes to like issues that I need to resolve. I have to wear the hat when it comes to like organizing and project management and marketing and social media, and so many hats. And I feel like I was so worried for the first like year or two when I was running my business. Just last year and the year before, I was like, oh my God, do I have to do this forever? Like, am I going to have to be reminding myself to post on social media every single day for the next like 20 years? Like, I'm going to be exhausted. But then I realized that one of the beautiful things about like growth and business ownership is the fact that you can build your business up to a point where you can outsource, and that can happen sooner than you think. And I feel like I thought that like in 5 years and 10 years, I will have like a team of people. I will outsource like all those tasks that are stressing me out. But I was able to do that last year, which is my second year in business. And I didn't really realize that could happen so quick. And it was a huge weight off my back, not feeling like I had to stress out about marketing. I was able to focus on the parts that I really love and enjoy and am good at, which is like the design part. So just remember that you will be wearing a lot of hats. So you have to allow yourself time. And like I mentioned in the first point, that it can be a little lonely because you're going to have to say no to things sometimes because you have to get all these hats and all these tasks done. So just remember that like that's normal, and that's why not a lot of people end up being business owners, and that's why people most likely will quit really soon because it's stressful. There's a lot of things that you have to do, but I feel like if you have everything organized, if you have a project management system, if you have a good like pipeline for your clients, if you know like your work week structure, if you get all that nailed down, and you don't have to do it like right away, this happens over time, but if you get all that nailed down, it just becomes so much easier. And I feel like I'm in this place now where I'm able to outsource, and it's just become so much like less stress-free, so much less stress. I don't know, I can't talk, but that's been one of the most exciting parts about like having that relationship with money, where I'm like, okay, like this, I'm going to be investing in these people to help me with my stress, and I know that it's going to be so valuable because your time, your mental health, your stress is so important, and you have to remember that. So yeah, that's one of the tough things. You're going to be wearing many hats, but just remember, like, if you love it and if it doesn't feel like work to you, that's going to be no big deal at all. So on the topic of wearing many hats, one of the other things is that you are going to have to make many sacrifices. And I feel like I have been making sacrifices for a long time now. When I was working at the corporate company that I was at for only like 5 months, I was doing that, and I would be working on my Upwork clients, which is like a freelancing platform. And I was trying to work out every single day of the week. I was just like draining myself. I was so exhausted because I would have my 9 to 5, my clients. And when I say clients, I had like 5 clients at a time while working a 9 to 5, while working out, while trying to maintain friendships, while trying to like be a good person. And I was like, you know what? I can't do it all. So I had to come to the realization that I'm not being a bad friend if I just have to say no sometimes. And practicing saying no is so hard, you guys. I still struggle with it, but it's one of the most important things that you have to learn how to do, because if you say yes to everything, you are going to find yourself so burnt out. And I did. I found myself burnt out so many times in the past, especially when I was balancing the 2 jobs, because my brain just like, I feel like I work well when I have a lot of things on my plate, but that was just way too many things to the point where my brain could not handle all of it, and I would reach burnout really frequently. So just know that it's okay to make the sacrifices, and that's why I said it's a lifestyle change, because you're going to have to sacrifice like those Sunday night like hangouts with friends or drinking alcohol. Like, and I think back to that, I'm like, wow, I could never ever do that now. Like, that's kind of why I decided to cut alcohol out, because it doesn't make me feel good the next day. And I need every single hour of my day to either work on social media content, or if I'm not doing business, to show up in my relationships and in my friendships. And I can't like waste time. And I felt like that was wasting time. And I just feel like you have to ask yourself, what are those sacrifices you're willing to make? And are you willing to work on the weekends? Are you willing to work after your job? Are you willing to put in the work to set yourself up for freedom? And a lot of people aren't. And I feel like that is a hard truth, to the point is that sometimes it just isn't meant for you right now, if you're not willing to make those sacrifices and if you're not willing to put in the work. Because I hear it so many times. I used to say it and I look back and I'm like, that's just not the truth. But I think a lot of people say, I do not have time. And that's like the number one excuse I hear. I don't have time to do this, blah, blah, blah. But there's probably things that you're doing in your week, in your day, that you don't need to be doing, that you could sacrifice and put the time into your business and put the time into building your clientele and posting on social media and putting your work out there. There's time. You can find time. And I know that I mentioned like everyone's in a different place in their life. You might be going through something really tough right now, or maybe you have so many responsibilities. So I want to make sure I'm being super fair to everyone's situation. But I do feel like I didn't have time back then either. I was going through a lot, like in my relationship. I was going through a lot in my family, and I was working my 9-to-5 job. It was actually an 8-to-5 job, and I was like saying yes to all these things that I didn't need to be saying yes to, but I still would try and find the time to build my business. So just know sacrifices are needed sometimes, and I feel like even now, even though I feel like I'm in a really good balanced place with my business, I still have to make sacrifices sometimes. Like I still have to say no to things on a Friday night or on a Wednesday night or on a Sunday night. Like I have to say no sometimes, while also honoring my mental health and knowing that sometimes saying yes will allow me to grow a little more in my business. So you have to find that balance. But I feel like in the beginning, when you're building your business, sacrifices are sort of necessary. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is a very hard truth, but this is the fact that you have to practice confidence. You have to practice not judging yourself, and you have to practice stepping out of your comfort zone. I feel like this is a hard truth because it's easier said than done. Confidence takes time. It takes like daily practice. It takes a lot of effort if you are in a place where you're not feeling your most confident. But I feel like I've been thinking about this because I think a lot of people don't want to post on social media, or they don't want to put themselves out there because they're feeling insecure or they're judging themselves or something. But why? Like, what's the point of doing that? Because everybody in our world, in our lives, has such a unique story. And I want you guys to practice this every day, because when I switch my mindset to believing that my story is going to help somebody, or my situation is going to help somebody, or my work and my like skill set is going to help somebody, I didn't care anymore about anyone judging what it is that I'm putting out there. And don't get me wrong, there's times, there's days, there's weeks where I feel like dang, I don't really want like my family to see this or something. But I have let that go because I know what it is that I can offer to people. I know what it is that my story can do to help people. And I think that everybody has something in them that can help each other. So I feel like you have to practice being confident in what it is that you're sharing and what it is that you're offering. Show that passion, show that like what inspired you. And just share that. Don't be afraid to share that, because someone's going to find it interesting. And even if it's like 10 likes to start, or even if it's like 5 likes to start, that's 5 to 10 people that have already taken the time to notice what your story is and what it is that you're sharing. And in the beginning, I wasn't getting like any engagement. I wasn't getting any likes or anything. I was posting and putting this stuff out there for myself, because I was like, you know what, in 20 years, I'm going to be able to look back on this and be like, dang, that is so cool that this is where I started and this is where I'm at. So I wanted to mention this because you have to let go of that judgment of yourself. Be kinder to yourself. Be kind, because there's no point in sitting there and judging yourself and doing that on top of all the other things I've mentioned in this episode, like wearing all those hats on top of judging yourself and being hard on yourself is going to be exhausting, and that also is going to lead to burnout. So what I would recommend doing is just practicing those affirmations to yourself. Practice being kind to yourself. Practice like posting it without even thinking twice about it. Just like being confident in it and just posting those drafts that you haven't posted yet, and just knowing that like the one little thing that you say can help somebody that might be where you were at like 5 months ago or a year ago. Just, yeah, I don't know how else to say it. I just feel like I see so many people being so hard on themselves or wanting this specific formula or this specific answer on how to do something, but everybody has their own story. You can make your own path to success. You can make your own path to achieving your vision, and you don't have to follow this specific formula. So just post what your heart's telling you to post, and don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid of what people are going to think about it, because at the end of the day, it's your passion, your story, and like you should cherish that so much. So I wanted to mention that because I feel like when I started, I was like, who really cares about this? Who's going to even care to see this, or who's going to care to hear this? But people will care. So don't be afraid to do it. And I promise you it's going to help somebody. And I think it's one of the most interesting parts of like the human experience is hearing everyone's story and how they get to where they are and like how they approach things and how they do things. So don't be afraid to share it. So those are some of the hard truths about being a business owner, specifically being like a creative business owner and a graphic designer. I feel like in our industry as artists, it's really common to feel those judgments, to feel imposter syndrome, which I want to make a whole episode on imposter syndrome, because I asked you guys on Instagram how many of you experience it, and it was a crazy amount of people, and we are all in this together. So I want to make an episode to talk about it, but I really hope that this episode helped you out and that it gave you some answers that maybe you've been seeking. I know that I kind of did give some harsh truths, and I don't want you guys to feel discouraged. If you are on that path to becoming a business owner, then you must have something that you are so passionate about, and it can go really far. So definitely stick with it if you are already on that path, but just keep these in mind and prepare for all these tips that I gave. But I really hope it was helpful. And if you guys have any questions at all, I'm always here for you. Drop them down below on this episode or DM me on Instagram, whatever you want to do. Always here for you. But you got this. Don't judge yourselves. Don't be so too hard on yourselves. And just prepare, because it's a really exciting road. It takes a lot of work, but it's so fulfilling. And I would appreciate it so much if you either subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Spotify, or both. Both would be amazing. But thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you in my next one.